Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of our shooting program, and welcome to today's show. We have such a pretty day to be outside doing anything, and especially out shooting. Well, friends, we do have a great show for you. We're going to be issuing a response to this ridiculous slam on Larry Pratt, our good friend at Gun Owners of America, and the judge is going to have some really terrific things to say about that. So we are glad to have you. You know, handguns are a focal point of some of the anti-gun groups, and a lot of people think that handguns are just for up close and personal type things, but that's really not true. The modern handgun, this is a Smith & Wesson model 657. In fact, this is a gun that we're working with in preparation for our proposed gun from Gunsight, a new 41 Magnum revolver built on the 657 Smith & Wesson. These are really, really very fine guns. As I've often said, I think the 41 Magnum is a vastly overlooked cartridge. It may be, in fact, may be the ideal all-around do-everything cartridge for a revolver or a handgun for that matter. So we have a water bottle set up over here at, around 200 yards or so, something out there. And let's see what we can do with this 657 and some full charge ammunition. Now, friends, you know, we have all kinds of people. Our show is reaching more and more viewers all over the United States, several other countries for that matter. So anyway, we get a lot of mail, a lot of questions, and those of us who are new to shooting, some of us watching today are, have questions about why are there different barrel lengths? What difference does barrel length make on a gun? This Ruger SP-101 with about a 2 or so inch barrel is in 357 Magnum. All right, this is a Ruger GP100, also chambered in 357 Magnum. And they say, what's the difference? Why have the bigger gun if you can have the same caliber with a smaller gun? Another question here is a Super Black Hawk, in fact my old Super Black Hawk, well worn for that matter, 44 Magnum versus another Super Black Hawk, loaned to us by the good folks at Britton's incidentally. This gun has a 7.5 inch barrel, my old gun does, and this longer barrel model is essentially the same gun in stainless steel, but it has a 10.5 inch barrel. So people are saying, well, why would you need that? Okay, one, let's notice some performance characteristics, especially in the Magnum chamberings, especially the longer burn time you have with the longer barrel gives you a dramatic increase in velocity. So let's take a look here, get my earplugs in really well. Yes, always we shoot with hearing protection and with eye protection, no exceptions down here. Okay, notice how the 6 inch barrel gun, let's take a look at it in recoil. See, just not a whole heck of a lot of recoil. We're shooting full charge 357 Magnum loads. Now then, same drill with your SP-101, same caliber, same ammunition. Watch it. See, quite a bit more recoil because you don't have that extra weight. Let's see that again. All right, your 6 inch GP100. See? Again with the SP-101. So quite a bit more recoil. More noise too, because more of the powder burns outside the barrel. Well, let's take a look here at our Super Black Hawks. Same drill. A little upchuck there. I do have these Pac-Mare grips which really do help on the Super Black Hawk. These guns have this trigger guard there that nails my finger here on the knuckle. But anyway, let's try our 10.5 inch model, see if we can see any difference. Hard to say, not a whole heck of a lot with stock grip, maybe a little bit less. Now then, as we said, with the Magnum calibers, you get an increase in velocity. Typically, on handguns or rifles, either for that matter, we look for about a 50 feet per second increase in velocity, everything else being equal. Now then, it's interesting, the Rugers typically get really good velocities out of their guns. Let's take a look. In fact, we have our chronograph down today. We have our chrono. Someone asked us about how good the chronographs were, so let's use it and let's time these guns and let's just see how much difference, in fact, that barrel length among these guns makes. All right, friends, let's start off with our SP-101 357. And yes, we're shooting carbine ammunition. I think that certainly Corbin on a per shell basis will outperform any other manufacturer's ammunition. And that's not just because they've been a good sponsor of our program, it's because we like to use what works. But we do have several different types of ammunition, but let's go with Corbin because honestly that's what I shoot the most of. Anyway, and certainly performs the best in the guns that I have. All right, let's go ahead. We have our chronograph set up, and let's shoot the 357 Magnum out of the SP-101 2-inch barrel. Okay, 1,257 feet per second. All right, let's shoot another shell through it. Okay, 1,221 feet per second. All right, we had a difference there of about 25 or so feet per second, which is not unusual between different shells, different cartridges. So let's try the same ammunition in our GP100 with a 6-inch barrel. Okay, 1,475 feet per second. Well, friends, that's quite a bit from 1,225 to 1,250 up to 1,475. See, we're looking at about 225 or so difference feet per second wise. Let's shoot another one in our GP100. Okay, that one went on up to 1,527. So we're looking at about, within 50 feet again, which is not unusual in different guns to have, 25 or 50 feet disparity. In fact, I've heard some ammunition manufacturers say if they had factory ammunition that was less than 100 feet per second difference in velocity in the same lot of ammunition, well, that was okay. But anyway, so we're talking about 50 feet per second difference between the two shells, but 1,500, see, we picked up quite a bit. And of course, the GP100s with the long barrels are known for extreme velocity. Even their 4-inch guns are pretty good. So let's extrapolate out here. Let's extrapolate out to say, well, we have 4 inches difference between the SP-101 and the GP100. So we're looking at, we're going to call it an average of 1,500 feet per second with the 125 grain hollow point in this 357 Magnum from Corbin. 1,500 versus say 1260 or 70. So we're looking at 250 or so on an average, we're going to call it that anyway, feet per second difference. So 4 into 250 would be a little over 4 times, let's see, 6 and 4 is 24, so about 60 feet per second difference per inch. That's what we're seeing here. So that's pretty close to what we're going to have as an average, probably between the same guns and barrel length. Well, let's try our 44 Magnum here. And we're going to be using some Federal ammunition today. That's what we happen to have handy. Shoot a couple of the 240 grain bullets that are most common in 44 Magnum. Go ahead and load a couple in our Super Black Hawk here. Now, friends, what we've done, we've loaded 2 standard full charge 240 grain 44 Magnums jacketed hollow points from Federal in here in my old Super Black Hawk, and after those 2 we have 2 of the hot Federal 180 grain 44 Magnums. So let's see what these 2 different loadings do in my old Super Black Hawk. Again, this old gun's pretty well worn, but we compared it to a new one over here the other day, a new Super Black Hawk Velocity, and it was within 25 or so feet per second of the new gun. Well, heck, you can have that much variation in manufacturing. No 2 guns coming down the assembly line will be exactly the same velocity. So I feel like that's close enough. The old gun still shoots good, you know. So in fact, it shot a little better than the newer one. So I'll just leave it alone. This is a new model, post 1973 model, but a little beat up. But what the heck, you know. People might say that about me. I'm a little beat up, but hey, I still work good. So anyway, moving right along. We're going to shoot this load, and then we're going to follow that with the 44 Magnum with the 10.5 inch barrel with the same loadings. So let's see what it does. Incidentally, the Smith & Wesson Classic Hunter that you see from time to time on the show, oddly enough, has velocities that are the same as this 7.5 inch Ruger, so it's a little bit faster than some of the Smith & Wessons that we have shot in the past. So again, it's just a 6 inch barrel, but it's the same velocity as this. So anyway, move right along. Let's go ahead and chronograph. Full charge, 240 grain load. Okay, 1,370 feet per second. Friends, that's pretty good, 1,370 feet per second. Let's try another shell, same variety. Okay, 1,303 is what it shows, and you can see with the 1,303, we're looking at about 67 feet per second variation. Now that's from Federal, just to sort of reiterate what I was talking about earlier. You will get some variation in most factory ammunition, but normally the 44 Magnums are going to run over 1,300 out of this gun here. And speaking a little beat up, let me tell you what, friends, our health club is so great because it makes you feel rejuvenated and revitalized and all that. It's so much fun. If you're certainly a mature person, I'm 46 years old, I like to think I'm mature. It makes life so much more fun to have all that energy and all that zip and vigor that a lot of us have when we were in our 20s and 30s. So it really does help. I don't know if we could. I don't think there is a vitamin pack for this old gun. It would take a blue and tank and some other things to make it new again. But anyway, we need to see if we can get a health club for these old guns, I guess. All right. Now then, let's go ahead and shoot the 180 grain bullet out of my old Super Blackhawk, 7.5 inch barrel. Oh, how about 1,703 feet per second? Now then, friends, let's do the same drill with our 10.5 inch 44 Magnum with the same ammunition, and let's see what happens. 240 grain first. Okay, 1,360. You notice something? That's with 240 grain bullets. Same ammunition. Guess what? On that particular load, it's no faster than our 7.5 inch gun. Let's try another one. Okay, 1,385, and that's showing a little bit faster, but not a whole heck of a lot. Well, where's that 50 feet per second increase that we would normally expect? All right, let's try the same drill with the 180 grain. They're already loaded. Let's try the 180 grain cartridge. And you know, we just came off 1,700 plus with our 7.5 inch regular old gun. Okay, we see a little difference here. This is 1,793. 1,793 feet per second. We're seeing about a 90 or so feet per second increase over our 7.5 inch gun. Well, still, that would be 30 feet per second. Let's shoot one more. Okay, 1,770. So we're going to call it about a 1,780 average there. Looking at about 80 or so feet per second difference. Now then, so what we have here is we have different guns made at different times. Who the heck knows? We're only looking at 25 or so feet per second increase with our per inch with our 10.5 inch gun. And why isn't it more than that? Well, I don't know. Made on a different day. This barrel may be 1,000th of an inch bigger because this is an almost new gun. I don't know. Or it looks nearly new, certainly. And this is one of those things that there will be production variations. I was expecting, again, that 50 or so feet per second difference in velocity per inch. Now then, I will say this. This 10.5 inch gun does shoot extremely well. We shot a 6-shot group out at 25 yards off our bench rest a little earlier, and it went into about an inch and a half, which is a little better than this gun normally does. My old gun, it'll normally shoot in 2 inches or less. But it looks like this is an extremely accurate gun. One advantage that you would have, because you don't get the dramatic velocity increase, but if you're shooting with open sights, what you have is a longer sight radius. It is easier to shoot more precisely with open sights because the front sight is just further out there. It's more precise. So that would really be about the only advantage. It would pick up a little velocity in this particular gun, but that's one of those things that it ought to be, but doesn't quite make sense. And this is no knock against Ruger velocity or Ruger quality, because overall their quality is just excellent. And like I said, the gun functions fine and performs fine, but in this particular one, we just don't get the velocity increase that I thought we would have gotten. But that's just one of those things, you know. You come out and you take a gun as an individual machine, and each one of them will have its own characteristics. And this gun, certainly you don't lose any velocity, you just don't pick up as much as we thought it might have. So what have we learned about barrel length? One is the longer barrels will certainly give a much more dramatic increase in velocity and performance, for that matter. Bullet performance will certainly make a difference. It depends on velocity on how that bullet performs. The longer barrels will definitely give a lot better performance than the shorter ones. Now, oddly enough, the longer barrels may or may not be accurate, or much more accurate, say, than the shorter barrels. They're just easier to hold and easier to shoot because you have quite a bit more weight and a longer sight radius. From a machine ref, some of these short guns can really surprise you on what they will do. But this is a trade-off. Like this 2-inch barrel, SP101, is much more portable, say, than this 6-inch barrel gun. And the same drill with our 7.5-inch Super Blackhawk versus this 10-inch gun. One, the 7.5-inch is just much more portable, easier to carry. If you're using a shoulder holster or something like that, it wouldn't make that much difference. But the longer barrel in this case, rather than a performance increase, would just be easier to shoot well with open sights. With a scope, there's not going to be terribly much difference in the two guns. The longer barrel may be a little more accurate. One, it's a newer gun than this one, and just hadn't been shot as much, doesn't have as much wear, so maybe it would be a little more accurate at the longer distances. I don't know. I know it's easier to shoot with open sights. So it comes down to whatever your needs are. You know, if you need to carry a gun or in your purse if you're a woman, or if you need a hideout gun, well, the short ones are definitely would have some advantages over the long ones. But if you want to go out and shoot and get the most efficient use out of your cartridge, well, certainly the longer barrels would be. It just depends on what you have in mind, but that's a brief summary there of just what longer barrels do as far as we're talking handguns here.
Stay tuned for more of the Shooting Show after these important messages.
The Shooting Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it.
You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE-TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month.
Now, friends, with your new Shooting Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy
of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a crowd here. This is the Shreveport, Louisiana Friends of the NRA. Incidentally, I see Roy Brunt over there finally. In 1995, we had the highest attendance in Louisiana, and we were among the top 25 in the nation. And if you take a look at the crowd here, most of them in the chow line, you'll see why we were among the tops in the nation. Now, what do you think of that? Now, if the NRA will just put all that money into a political campaign and let's get some decent people elected, we'll be okay.
You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today. Well, friends, we hope you're enjoying our program. I'm sitting here with my esteemed colleague, the judge, Leroy Scott, Juris Doctorate, and all that. Sir, how you doing?
I guess I'm doing pretty good, Johnny. I'm live.
Well, well, that beats the heck out of the alternative, doesn't it? You know, I feel every day I wake up, Judge, my eyes open and I see the ceiling in my house. I said, hey, I got another shot today. Well, let me mention something here briefly we had on the last program. You know, this is one of our very favorite guns here on the program. This is the 625 revolver and 45 ACP. And we've got a little science project going here. We had showed some punctured primers that we had gotten on this gun on last week's program. Now, you can see a couple of these have dark spots there in the center there. And what I did, I took this particular brand of ammunition and took some of the same punctured primer hulls there and reloaded them. And let me have this one here. And I just put a different brand of primer in, and everything was fine. So that's a little mystery we have there. Friends, anytime you take a semi-automatic pistol cartridge and put it in a revolver, you may get some idiosyncrasies there that may be a little unusual. So what you may have to do is hunt around for some ammunition. I am talking to Corbin about making a special 45 auto rim, a higher performance load just for this revolver. A lot of people out there have these 625s, and they are really Cadillac guns. Most of them are super accurate. The actions on them tend to be just excellent, and these are such terrific home defense guns. Really would be a great police gun. You know, Judge, you know, think about it. You know, you can reload them so, you know, just instantaneously, you know, so really be a nice police gun. Well, sir, I know we have some things to talk about. You know, our friend, one of our good friends, got a little bad press last week.
Well, that's true. He got some bad press depending on how you look at it.
Well, there you go.
I know Larry Pratt. I've known him for years.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fine person. He is accused of being a racist, but he's not.
He's not. We know Larry very well.
I think that the people that are accusing him, however, are forgetting some very famous words of the French philosopher Voltaire.
Well, what might those be, sir?
I think he said something like this: I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Larry has never made any sort of slam on any racial or ethnic group. That was just an outright a blatant hatchet job. And of course, we know why. The liberal establishment, especially the news media, and even I think the Bob Dole staff, they're seeing Pat Buchanan as a serious contender.
Why do they dislike Larry so much?
Well, I think there's another reason that Bob Dole is not too fond of Larry Pratt. Why is that, sir?
Well, we have a situation where Bob Dole
brokered the Brady bill.
Mhm.
It had already been defeated by a filibuster in the Senate, and when most of the senators had gone home and Bob Dole was there were two other senators on the floor, one of them being the majority leader at that time, who was the senator from Maine, who's now retired, thank goodness. They unanimously consented, that's unanimous with three people, unanimous consented to adopting the Brady bill.
You know, Judge, I don't think a lot of people realize just what a small number of people it can actually get something done in the Senate.
All they had to do was one person to stand up and say, I demand a roll call vote and suggest the absence of a quorum.
And then even with three people,
they couldn't have done a thing. They couldn't have done a thing. But Dole let Brady get by. Then other things Dole have done. He voted in favor of the assault weapon ban, and he had another bill this year that a majority leader has a tremendous amount of power.
I would think so.
They brought up a bill that went to the floor, but went to the floor with the stipulation, and when I say stipulation, it means the requirement that they could not introduce an assault weapon ban as part of the bill.
Right.
And that's what Bob Dole has done. Bob Dole has been no friend of gun owners. Now, I don't know that he's been a particular enemy in that he hasn't beat the drums for it, but every time he gets a chance, apparently he's done something that's not so good. I don't care for Bob Dole, and it looks like he's still the front runner. We'll see about that tomorrow.
That's true. As we're taping this program, this is Monday evening, and all of us are very interested in how that New Hampshire primary is going to go. You know, I witnessed something very humorous to me yesterday on Face the Nation on the David Brinkley, whatever is that Face the whatever program that is, and that's the first time I have ever seen Sam Donaldson, Cokie Roberts, and George Will soundly thrashed on the air. I thought it was great.
By
one Pat Buchanan.
Well, Buchanan says most of the things that I believe, and that incidentally raises another question that I want to get to. In the February 19th issue of New American, they're pointing out what is happening with illegal immigrants.
You know, one of the things that Pat made yesterday, he said, you know, anytime you have millions of people coming across your borders from another country, doesn't that qualify as some sort of invasion?
Well, the New American points out that that is an invasion, and that the idea behind a great many of those people coming in is to foment a revolution.
Well, and this is no criticism. We have some viewers down in Mexico. We do appreciate you, but the Mexican government is very tough on illegal immigrants coming into Mexico, as I understand it. Boy, it's jail time if you show up down there and you can't explain why you're there and don't have proper paperwork. And so what's happening here?
Well, they're coming in and they're threatening a revolution, and in fact, even boasting that soon they will have enough. Here's one in that he says, we have Nicaragua, soon we'll have El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, and Mexico. One day, tomorrow, 15 years from now, we're going to take 5 to 10 million Mexicans, and they're going to cross. They're going to have one thing in mind: cross the border, going to Dallas, Houston, New Mexico, San Diego, and each one has embedded in his mind the killing of at least 10 Americans.
Get your hands off that gun, bow, or fishing rod. Holding onto your equipment while you're going through the woods or climbing a hill is fatiguing and possibly dangerous. The versatile Tri-Tote all-season carrier is easy to use. You never have to drill a hole in your fine gun stock. And the Tri-Tote can be set up for your specific needs in a jiffy. Just follow the illustrated instructions and free demo video enclosed. There you are, hands-free, yet ready to shoot in an instant. Hunting and fishing have never been more enjoyable. With Tri-Tote, your equipment is secure and your hands are free to support yourself or carry other gear. How did you ever get along without Tri-Tote? Make this year's hunting and fishing the best ever. To order your Tri-Tote at this special TV price, call toll-free 1-800-231-1443. That's 1-800-231-1443.
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. You know, friends, it's rare in any field of manufacture that one particular company has a clear-cut advantage over the others. Well, in this case, it's Corbin Ammunition, Corbin Bullet Company, because they make the best handgun, long gun, and even some specialty caliber ammunition that's been real hard to get in the past. If you really want your handgun or rifle to perform at their absolute best, you need to find some Corbin ammunition. For information on where you can get Corbin, information on their product line, call them. Corbin Bullet Company, 1-800-626-7266. Again, give them a call. It's a free call, 1-800-626-7266. Trust me on this one. Corbin is the best there is.
Now, what group is fomenting this? What is this a particular group? It must be some nut group down in Central America or Mexico, somewhere there.
Well, this article is entirely too long to be able to get into the details of that. But let me tell you what the Ninth Circuit Court did. They struck down the English language requirement in Mexico. The court held that there's a First Amendment right to language diversity.
Now, what does that mean?
That means that you don't have to speak English to be in the United States. You don't have to speak English to have a part in American government. I'm a believer in the fact that if you can't speak English, you don't have any voice here.
Well, you know, that's an awfully good point, Judge. When you start talking about people speaking different languages, when they cannot communicate with each other, what do you have? You have a separate people. You have a separate group. If they can't communicate with each other, I mean, we're talking a serious problem in literally a society coming apart.
Well, Johnny, it's hard enough to talk to each other and understand what we're saying when we're speaking English.
That's true.
Because people put different meanings on words. Bill Clinton says he supports the Second Amendment.
Well, well, now, wait a minute, Judge. I mean, being an outright liar is different from different interpretation, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the interpretation you put on the Second Amendment. I wish I'd had the chance to write it, as I did in Louisiana.
Right.
It's difficult to be able to communicate using the same language because of the difference in the meaning of words, but it's absolutely impossible to communicate in different languages.
Well, look what's happening in Canada now. That's an example that was brought up. In Quebec now, the folks in Quebec, a lot of them are speaking French, and it's caused a chasm between Quebec and the rest of Canada. You know.
Well, it's creating a problem over here too. In the Sacramento Bee, the newspaper there, said that 1 in 4 students in California's public schools, that's more than 1.25 million kids, understand little or no English.
You know, that's outrageous.
in the borough of School District 24 in the borough of Queens in New York have 27,000 students who are said to speak, believe it, 83 different languages.
Well, you know, Judge, if I went to another country, I would not think of the country, the people that were there in charge and the people of the overall civilization. I wouldn't expect them, I wouldn't expect, if I went down to Mexico City and spent a few days, I wouldn't expect all those people to speak to me in English.
Well, I wouldn't expect them to speak to me in English, even though I've been told that enough of them speak English where you can get along. I don't know that you can. I couldn't get.
But I wouldn't assume.
I couldn't order fried chicken.
Well, I wouldn't go to Mexico and expect them to deal with me in English. I would have enough respect for them and their own culture to try and learn some Spanish, try and get across there if I was going to live and work there. And this is a situation of people coming here from other countries and thinking that we should, the people who were here first, as in civilized society here, would switch over to another language, and I don't agree with that.
Well, try this one. In Luna County, New Mexico, Mexican children are bused across the border from Palomas, Mexico to schools in Columbus and Deming at a cost of about $1 million annually.
Wow.
In 1993, a lawsuit was filed by Luna County residents to stop this practice, which they contend is an untenable burden on local schools and taxpayers and a violation of the state constitution. The lawsuit was immediately condemned by political leaders on both sides of the border. Columbus mayor defended the subsidized education of Mexican children as a moral obligation. We believe in humanity here, not laws. This is supposed to be a country of laws. Paloma's mayor, and I can't pronounce his Mexican name, has mastered the language of victimology. To me, the lawsuit is racist, and I think this issue could lead to international problems along this part of the border. That sounds like a threat to me.
Well, what in the world are we doing as Americans subsidizing, and nothing against the Mexicans? I mean,
and then the Mexican
they got
tells
their own country.
The Mexican tells the people in New Mexico if they don't like Mexico, they ought to move to Canada.
Makes no sense at all.
Now, which one of the presidential candidates says he's going to stop illegal immigration?
Well, Pat Buchanan. He's the only one that's really said that.
I don't think any of the others have said anything about it.
I don't. Clinton has said a lot of. Clinton said a lot of stuff. My gosh, and we hadn't really done.
Well, with Clinton, he said everything. He said on both sides of every question.
He says whatever is required for whatever audience to get across or get by with.
But
friends, we do want to mention this is, of course, the New American Magazine. If you want the best news magazine available in this country today, it is in fact the New American Magazine. They just don't miss, and they will tell you just what the deal is.
Well, 25% of the inmates in federal prisons are aliens, for example.
Well, if they're aliens, why can't they be deported? Send them back where they came from.
Well, this issue of the New American, which is entitled Revolution, is one that really is important. And if we don't wake up, we're going to find that we don't have a country anymore. Now, we may not have a country anyhow. Sarah Brady, bless her little socialist heart, she's going after the First Amendment right now. She's been tackling our Second Amendment rights, but now she's going after the First Amendment rights. She's asking the Federal Trade Commission to ban advertisements by firearms manufacturers because on the basis of a flawed study, she claims that the advertisements are deceptive because based on biased and discredited research, firearms in the home are not useful for self-defense.
Well, Sarah Brady is off in the ozone somewhere. I mean, we know that, and of course.
Well, she's worse than that. She's plain lying. She tells me that a firearm in my home is not useful in self-defense.
When I know for a fact that you have used your firearm in your home for self-defense, as at different times, you've never had to shoot anybody that I'm aware of. Certainly not, but. And I haven't either, but I have used. I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for a firearm handy in a robbery attempt some time ago. I mean, I absolutely would not be sitting here today.
Well, even the quote scientist unquote that she is quoting on this theory, Dr. Arthur Kellerman has admitted that his studies were not complete because it solely focused on instances where someone was killed.
Well, you see, friends, we've said this before. This is a lot bigger issue than just about firearms. These socialist people want to take away our rights as Americans to be free, period. And we've been saying this to the press the whole time, said, okay, you better get off our backs on the Second Amendment, and you better start defending it because the First Amendment is next. Don't you agree?
Well, if they can ban that, then the next question is what else can they ban, or what can't they ban on the basis of some flawed sociological study?
Well, now, being politically correct or politically correct speech, you can say certain things on campuses around this country, get you expelled from school. You can say things which most of us would think was just some obnoxious person. Some things can cause you more problems than you can erase it.
Well, there's no question about that. Now, our friend Chuck Schumer.
Oh, yes, Chucky Schumer.
Chucky Schumer has cited that New York's gun control law doesn't work, and so he wants a national one-gun-a-month rationing system. So Sherman wants to limit you to being able to not be able to buy more than one gun a month. Now, like you said, Johnny.
Heck, I don't buy one gun a month.
Most people don't buy.
Most of us don't. Heck.
Don't buy a gun a month.
Heck, I'll be doing good if I buy one a year.
But I can tell you this, that if they limit me to one gun a month, I'll be sure to buy one a month.
Well, what this is all about, as we well know, this is another set of paperwork and permission from your government to buy a gun at all. So then you're going to have all kinds of criteria. Say, well, if you're left-handed, well, you can't buy a gun because you're left-handed. Or if you have gray hair, or if you wear glasses, or if you're from the wrong end of the county, or whatever else. It is more stipulation, and it's just a glorified, another version of this Brady bill.
Well, it gets down, Johnny, to the fact that restrictions on guns in New York doesn't work, so he thinks that ought to be applied everywhere else.
Well, good point on that, Judge. I heard someone say that said, well, in Washington, D.C., they have all kinds of gun restrictions. Said, well, they bring in the guns from Virginia. Well, why doesn't Virginia have the crime problem that Washington, D.C. does? Why don't they have a crime problem?
Doesn't have it at all.
Don't have it at all. Why don't some of the freest gun laws or gun situations in the entire country are neighbors or near neighbors to New York up there? Look at Vermont. Look at New Hampshire, where in some of these states, you don't have to have any sort of permit at all to carry a gun concealed. Why don't they have trouble? Why don't they have that? They don't.
No.
See, it's because gun control does not work. It is not effective. It only aids the criminal element.
Well, let's get down to something else. The president's appointees to the federal bench have been several soft on criminal judges, and we mentioned some. Here's a judge that overturned the murder conviction of a man in the killing of his parents, despite the overwhelming evidence against him because of what another judge described as a harmless error by a juror. Another Clinton judge threw out a conviction against a woman who confessed on videotape to running drugs and was in possession for more than 80 pounds of cocaine and heroin at the time of her arrest. Why? Because in that judge's opinion, the four men who were loading duffel bags into their trunk ran when they saw police officers, and that didn't give the officers probable cause to check them out and search the car. Well, I'm not sure it did give them probable cause to check them out and search the car, but I'm sure they could have found some other way to handle the situation had they tried.
But what we're saying is the obvious things here. Now, we're not talking, we're as much against Nazi-type tactics of going into people's homes as any people on the face of the earth. But when you have something obvious, I mean, can we be reasonable here? That's what it's all about. We've gone beyond reason. In some areas, we have, on the federal level, we have law enforcement where they're what they call active searches, where they break in, just like what I'd call a Ruby Ridge, that would be certainly an active assault on a private dwelling. The thing at Waco last year by ATF and or a couple of years ago by the FBI.
Well, of course, that's one of the reasons that Dole is aggravated at Larry Pratt.
Listen, don't go away. The Shooting Show will be right back after these important messages.
The Shooting Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
If you are a boater or a birder, if you ever carry a camera, Bi-Tote is for you. It is the most comfortable binocular and camera carrier on the market today. And its all-elastic quick change feature makes it possible to switch from one piece of equipment to another without missing a beat. If you think that carrying binoculars or cameras is a pain in the neck, try Bi-Tote. For the first time, your equipment will feel almost weightless, and you'll be free of that annoying swinging and bouncing which is hard on your body as well as the equipment, especially when you're negotiating rough terrain or on a pitching boat. One hand for you, one hand for the boat, and Bi-Tote for your binoculars or camera. They'll be ready for you instantly, held firmly in position. They're always there, not buried in a locker or other out-of-the-way place. And the Bi-Tote is totally adjustable for a custom fit. All necessary adapters and complete instructions are included with your Bi-Tote. How did you ever get along without it?
For Health Club information, give us a call, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your name, address, and phone number. Someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Friends, this is such a wonderful thing. Do it for yourselves today.
Because he's been fussing and screaming and hollering and continues to continue to fuss and scream and holler, along with the NRA and a bunch of other people, about Ruby Ridge and about Waco. And when they finally got something done and found out what happened, I still haven't gotten a single reply from anybody on this program. We get into 30 million households a week, and I haven't had a single person tell me what is the right term for federal agents that shoot up a building and kill almost 100 women and children in it, and somebody called them jackbooted thugs.
Well, they did have on assault paraphernalia, had on combat boots.
I'd like to know, if you don't call them jackbooted thugs, what do you call them? Just give me a name for them. And nobody's done it yet. 30 million households, nobody's done it.
Well,
I don't think there is any other name.
I don't think there is any other name. And Wayne Lafayette.
Ex-President Bush, former President Bush, resigned from the NRA because somebody at the NRA called those people jackbooted thugs. Well,
what do you call federal officers who shoot children and dogs unprovoked? What do you call that? What are we talking about here?
Jackbooted thugs doesn't fit them. I don't know what the hell does.
Kind of, just kind of the way that definition runs.
Well, there is one presidential candidate, and if another one will say the same thing, let us know, and we'll put your name on this program too. There's only one presidential candidate that has come out plain English speaking that he believes the Second Amendment means that we have an individual right to own and possess arms, and the government has no right to stop us. Now that's Pat Buchanan. He wants to do something about illegal immigration. He wants to do something about exporting jobs. All those things sound pretty good to me.
Well, they actually do, Judge. It makes sense. And see, why not? I had heard someone say that they didn't know if Pat was electable. Of course, it was a liberal type that was saying that. But wait a minute. What's wrong with having someone who stands up and says the truth? What's wrong with that? That's what we're doing here every week. We're trying to tell, we in fact are telling the truth.
Of course, I'm not getting elected to anything either.
Well, but has our society gone so far that we can no longer recognize the truth? I don't believe that. I think that tremendous numbers, and certainly we hear from them from all over the country who agree with us, tremendous numbers of people are capable of discerning the truth. And if they
get a chance to hear it. But the trouble is that you don't get much chance to hear it over the national media. Now, I am aggravated with the national media. I don't know what the solution to it is, because if we didn't have the national media, we might be in a worse fix than we are now.
But the problem is the national media. There was a tremendous piece in the Wall Street Journal a few days ago about the liberal media bias. And I don't always agree with some of the things in the Wall Street Journal, but this one was pretty good. This was mentioned on the Rush Limbaugh program, and I think on Gordon Liddy also. It talked about just, in fact, they said that the media should do a reality check, I believe was how it was phrased, because they are so obviously
bias toward liberalism. You know, a lot of large companies that are controlled by a very few people control the news organizations. Look at the newspaper chains now.
Well, now, I can tell you this, Johnny. If I owned a newspaper, the editorial page would say what I want it to say.
Okay, if you own the paper.
If I own the paper.
All right, and that's what's happening. You have liberal companies that own numbers of papers, and you have liberal people in charge of
Well, you've got
networks.
the same thing on the networks. You've got the same thing on television.
And that's what they're doing.
And anybody that thinks CNN isn't biased doesn't really know very much about the guy that owns CNN.
That's right. That's right.
Because he's a flaming liberal and married a flaming liberal.
Oh, you think old Janie's a flaming liberal, I believe?
Hanoi Jane.
She's way up there as far as liberal circles go. So that's what we're faced with. And, of course, that's why we're doing our job here. We're just trying to make some reason here of what's going on, and we want to tell you about it. Okay.
Well, my lesson for the day is this. I still believe, I've said it many times on this show, the wise, the honest, the intelligent should vote, and if you're none of these, then for the love of your country, stay away from the polls. But if you are wise and honest and intelligent, and you do intend to vote, then for heaven's sakes, get active in your political party. Make sure that the right people are nominated for office. Make sure that the right people are voted for, and do your missionary work with your neighbors.
That's right.
And all of your friends, and everybody else that you can find that'll listen to you. Now, I've listened to everything that all of these presidential candidates have said. Well, I've listened to everything. I can't say that 24 hours a day I've listened to it, but I've heard enough of each one of them that I feel like I know where they stand. Bob Dole stands on quicksand. Yeah, it shifts from one day to the next. He says he wants to protect the rights of gun owners, but he's responsible for Brady. He's responsible for not being able to repeal the gun ban. He voted for the gun ban. I haven't seen him say anything yet, even say anything, much less do anything, to protect the rights of gun owners. I don't know where Lamar Alexander stands on that.
Don't know.
Well, he hadn't said anything.
Where he stands on anything. Actually, we don't.
And Forbes has only said, I support the Second Amendment. That doesn't mean anything, because the Second Amendment is sufficiently queasy where you can claim you'll be supporting the Second Amendment and actually be going the other way. Pat Buchanan has said it, and you people out there who own guns and want to protect your rights to own guns and to protect your family, yourself, your community, and possibly the republic itself, then I suggest that you give very serious consideration to supporting Pat Buchanan. I would rather be defeated with a principled candidate than to win with one that shifts around every time the wind blows. If I'm going to be knifed, I'd rather be knifed by an enemy and not by somebody that claims to be my friend. I think that's what caused Caesar to be so insulted when he said, "Et tu, Brute." Brutus was supposed to be his friend, and he got stabbed by him. He said, "You too, Brutus." It hurts more to be stabbed by friends than it does by enemies.
Well,
I'm convinced.
I really want to commend Pat Buchanan for standing beside our friend Larry Pratt. He stood up for him in the debate the other night. He also stood up for him on this program yesterday. He said, you know, he's going to stand by his friends, give the man a chance to defend himself.
Well, you know what Dole said? He said Pratt ought to be fired, and Pratt has been, quote, giving me a fit for years. Why, hell yes, he's been giving him a fit. And more power to you, Larry. I hope you call in, and we'll repeat what you say on this program. We'll give you a chance to have a voice.
Well, let me put in one little word here. Les, see if you can come in just a little tighter on this. Friends, this is in honor of Sarah Brady's desire to stop gun advertisement. This is a non-paid-for advertisement for Smith & Wesson handguns. Friends, This is a stainless steel 625 Smith & Wesson revolver. It's in 45 ACP. It's one of the finest handguns made anywhere. In fact, the entire Smith & Wesson line are very fine handguns. And maybe Ms. Brady would take a look. She might be impressed by the craftsmanship on Smith & Wesson handguns, and these are available at your local gun shop. And I just think they're pretty darn terrific. And those that want a good handgun, this is a fine example if you want to go buy one.
Well, now let's just take an example. Let's pretend that Sarah Brady is right. She's wrong, of course, but let's pretend she's right. That this study says that a handgun is not useful in self-defense. Is that any reason you ought not have it? An automobile is not useful in self-defense. A bottle of whiskey is not useful in self-defense. A new suit's not useful in self-defense. She doesn't propose that you don't have a right to buy those because they're not useful in self-defense. So why the devil a gun?
Well, that's a good argument. Of course, we know that's what they're for, self-defense, and they have been used effectively. Professor Kleck says over 1 million times a year.
2.5 million times.
2.5 million times a year, firearms are used in protection and defense of home and property. So that's the problem. We have people like the Bradys that have ears in government and have influence in government, and literally, friends, I tell you what, these socialists, their aim is a socialist America where all of us take orders from the government, we do what we're told, and we shut up. Now, that's what they want. We cannot let them take away our firearms. We cannot let them take away our constitutional rights.
Let's close our dialogue today, Johnny, with our famous quotation from Sarah when she said, "We will never be able to achieve our dream of a socialist America until we totally disarm all those who would never consent."
Well, let's just make their dream a nightmare and just don't ever let them achieve it. How about that? You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today.